Hi YouTube, Christine here, Skinny Brit to be. Somebody had asked me about my breakfast cereal, my muesli. So I've done a quick rundown on exactly what I have for my breakfast, etc. So over to the kitchen. Sorry, I'm here in the kitchen now. Sorry, chewing some of my dried fruit. Okay, so here's what I put into my muesli. I use porridge oats, 100 grams of porridge oats. They're just rolled oats, straightforward, as you'd make normal porridge, proper porridge. Then 50 grams of Weetabix. I just take as much as I want of it and crumble that into the mix so that it's not in chunks. Protein powder, usually I put in 100 grams for this particular size batch, but of course you can put in as much or as little as you like. I tend to just like the vanilla flavour, so that's the one I use. 100 grams of raisins. In fact, you could use any of the dried currants, raisins or sultanas. In fact, now that I think about it, I think they are actually sultanas, but they're quite a dark coloured ones. Then I usually use blanched flaked almonds, but you could use any mixed nuts that you particularly like. But as you can see, I'm a bit of a lover of lock and lock containers. But what I do is to store things and keep them fresh. I cut off the nutrient list off of the packets and always pop that into the box with whatever I'm storing. So I have 25 grams of nuts and seeds. I actually found I'm using a mixture of 3 seeds. They're pine kernels, pumpkin seeds and sunflowers. But you could use any mix that you particularly liked or fancied. 40 grams of those. And last but not least, I use these funny looking things are chopped dried apricots, which I'm particularly partial to. And I usually put in 80 grams of those. And I simply pile them all into one big container, mix them up well. And then I serve with my serving size is the scoop that actually comes with my protein powder. I've got several of these now. Every time I open a tub I've got at least one in there. Okay, when it's all mixed up, that gives me approximately, I think, 550 grams. And each scoop, because I just have one scoop for my breakfast, is 32 grams. So there's enough for nearly 2 weeks breakfast there. And I do like the fact that it's got much more fruit in it than the shop bought varieties, etc. Serving size gives me 32 grams of the mixture. And that equates to 114 calories. 6.8 of protein, 6.7 of carbs and 3.4 of fat. And I usually serve it with about a tablespoon of stewed apple, cooking unsweetened apple. A tablespoon of stewed apple. I've got lots of stewed apple which I've frozen, because I've got apple trees in the garden and I froze a whole lot of it in the autumn for using sort of at such occasions. And I usually plonk on top another tablespoon of Greek yoghurt, and that gives me my breakfast, which usually comes in, give or take a few calories, a couple of 100 calories per serving, and I find that very satisfying. Anyway, that's my muesli, that's what I do. I'll try and put the details, sort of down below, a link, not a link, the details, again, in case anybody is interested in making some. But of course you could vary the ingredients for whatever you fancy, etc. But I mean, some of these, like the nuts and the, you know, the dried fruit. Oh, the sugar content, the sugar, yeah, those carbs, the 6.7 carbs, that was the sugar. But there were no refined sugars in there. They were just the natural sugars. So I felt that was sort of forgivable. Anyway, that's all for now.